In some ways, it feels like we just got here. In others, round one seems like it was a year ago. It's the 2023 PDGA Masters Disc Golf World Championships from Flagstaff, Arizona. The final day. Grant Zellner and the philosopher of disc golf, Philo Brathwaite. Philo, for some competitors, today will be 27 grinding holes around the Little America complex in one of the hottest heat waves experienced in this area in 20 years.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Grant. The last leg of the marathon is on today for these competitors. Joe Rovere, Cale Leiviska knotted up at the top. Dave Feldberg, Pete Ulibarri. A little ways behind, but you just never know with golf.
We start things off at the hardest hole on the course. The first is a 653-foot par 4. It's given up nearly the same amount of double bogeys as birdies here on the complex.
Are you surprised with this treacherous green? Super protected up on a mogul. Lots of things could happen with a green like that.
Cale Leiviska taking one of two primary routes. Correction, that was Joe Rovere. This is Cale Leiviska.
Yeah, it seems like the guys that play down the middle and try to progress as much as they can have kind of fared best. Anything out in the open really going to give you an opportunity.
Now Dave Feldberg, also looking to the right.
Breezy out there today, Grant.
It was quite breezy, the windiest it's been all week, the earliest in the day, which is noteworthy because all players today starting at 8 a.m.
Second away for Joe Rovere, just going to try to punch this one up the fairway and leave himself with a pretty routine up and down. Same for Cale Leiviska. Really difficult to attack the green from so far back in the fairway and stand still. Tall order.
Dave Feldberg gets this one flat.
A little too flat, clipping that tree on the left side. Gonna have some work left to do to get up and down. Pete Ulibarri going to the flexing sidearm. In position to get up and down for par.
Feldberg trying to get up and down.
Well, that's how guys end up getting double bogeys. Not much out of bounds out here in Flagstaff, and unfortunate for Feldberg. Sails the green and finds some.
Pete to the top of the mound.
That was perfect. Joe Rovere also going to the backhand, trying to turn that thing over. Gets it to set up on top. A little bit of work left there. That should be all but easy tap in there for Cale Leiviska. Feldberg now. To save bogey. Doesn't get it to stick. There's one of those double bogeys you were talking about. Uh-oh. Early troubles for Mr. Joe Rovere.
Pete Ulibarri, part of this foursome, thanks mostly in part to the move he made back in round number 3, also here at Little America. He had the hot round of the day at 12 under.
Yeah, he and Tony Farrow went low, getting a 12-pack in the house. Oh, boy. Tough start there for Joe Rovere. Cale Leiviska for a stroke advantage here on hole 1.
And that's that, the most difficult hole on the complex in the books. We move on to the second, a gorgeous shot here over the water, 324 foot, a par 3. It looks like a postcard.
Absolutely. We have seen some guys struggle with this tee shot. The wind, there's that wind play. It may look like it's good, and then all of a sudden, wow, the vortex drops the bottom out of that disc for Cale Leiviska, out of bounds.
Philo, people have probably heard the name Ulibarri. They may not know the game that belongs to Pete.
Pete's a classic disc golfer. He's got, a really solid bag of skills. You see him go to the sidearm from time to time. Really solid on the backhand. Putting's pretty good as well. Currently in the 980s in his rating, but he's definitely got 10-15, 10-20 golf in him. Obviously, he popped off that 12 under round 3. Let you know to where his skill set's at.
To the drop zone, Cale Leiviska.
Gets a little ground play, grinds that inside circle 1. Ulibarri for bird. Just slightly undercommitted on that go. Feldberg, big bounce back birdie after the dub to start off his day. Gonna need to clean things up the rest of the way if he wants any chance of getting into this win category. Still 6 strokes back.
Cale, the exaggerated upward motion.
Hadn't seen Cale miss too many of those 6-7 pace putts this week so far, and that's a costly one there. He's going to flip-flop once again. Joe Rovere, 2-stroke advantage.
From 1 back to 2 ahead, a 3-stroke swing here at the second. There aren't many holes being contended by this division where a 3-stroke swing is likely, and yet we see one. Heading to the third now, 316 feet, a par 3.
Yep, straight up the hill. It's going to look like they're throwing this thing 350 with this 315-foot distance. Across the hill, maybe not quite so steep upwards, but still going to have to put a good move on it. Left to center and hang on to the angle, and that one's kind of drifting a little bit for Joe, but should squeak inside circle 1 on the right side.
Feldberg airborne.
Seen him throw this control driver all week long. Dave Feldberg on the bullseye.
Players have really figured out their angles by this point at altitude.
You would hope so, but this is the semifinal round, getting close to the completion of this event. Wouldn't be surprised if a little anxious nerves running through the body make these guys, be a little loose here and there. We saw it happen to Cale Leiviska, maybe just a little bad luck with the wind. Man, that's a mistake you really can't have out here. That's kind of beating yourself, ending up OB and then not getting up and down for the bogey.
Solid there. Joe Rovere has to putt first. Nope. So Cale to get one back.
Nice recovery once again. Every time they've made a mistake, pretty much anyone we've watched on these lead cards, they bounce right back with a birdie almost immediately.
Yesterday between Cale and Joe, it just seemed like punch after punch, back and forth all day long. In doing so, they managed to gap the field a little bit. And unless Dave, Pete, or somebody from the chase card can go hot early, it's going to be a 2-horse race.
Practice. It's the difference between good and great. Distractions are obstacles. Eliminate them and see how far you can go.
To a par 4 at the 4th, 643 feet. The devil is in the details here, right at the finish. Basket perched precariously right before the drop-off back into the same lake we played over at hole number 2.
And there is some OB lurking off to that right side. We saw Michael Johansson find some round 3.
Here it comes.
Wow. Got that cameraman to flip around. That's always a great sign.
To Pete Ulibarri. Getting out and into the open here is really all that's necessary. It just makes that second shot a little bit more daunting.
Yeah, hitting early trees here is definitely going to make this a tough birdie. Anywhere in the open, as you're saying, Grant, anything up and to the left really opens up the angles, either for the righty backhand play or the sidearm. We've seen both. Obviously, with that downhill grade on the backside of this hole, the touch has got to be very, very on point if you're going to get anywhere near this basket.
Joe Rovere caught a rock with that drive. Looks like he did the same with his second. Now Pete. A little too tentative there.
Yeah, you got to be a little more aggressive, get after that target. Cale Leiviska door ajar here to gain a stroke.
Nope. Through the pine needles. So Dave, an opportunity. Gets this to bounce.
Go back inside C1 for Dave Feldberg.
Everybody else playing for the par here, starting with that up from Joe Rovere.
Ulibarri next to act. Cale Leiviska, an outside look here. Oh, really needed that.
Circle 2 putts are a big challenge here at Little America because of the exposure. Dave, off the mark and down the embankment. Where did that stop?
Hopefully not too far. Hopefully he grabbed, there you go. Grabbed some
Okay.
hits and checked him up. Still inside circle 1 for Feldberg. Makes the adjustment, sends that home for par.
Big missed opportunity there. He's 6 back of the leader, 5 back of Cale.
It's kind of been one of those weeks for Dave Feldberg. He never really got on a heater at any point throughout this event. And a lot of solid golf for Feldberg, but man, the mistakes that he's had. I remember when we got about the halfway mark, he had already carded twice as many bogeys as his nearest competitors. Most of which came in, just the first couple of rounds and very early on in those rounds as well. So, yeah, hard to be in contention for a win when you're coughing up strokes going the wrong direction.
Over to the 5th, uphill 366 feet. If you can bounce a disc off of any of these trees around the basket, you may have an awkward stance, but you should have a circle 1 look.
Feldberg going to the high flexor. Weaves his way through all the stuff and gives himself a look.
Pete Ulibarri.
Different look there. Unfortunately catches a ninja branch, sending him the wrong direction. Cale Leiviska using every inch of the left side of that fairway, working that flexor back on line. Solid play there from Cale.
And Joe Rovere trying to follow a similar route.
Caught the ninja branch, beat down. At least he's in the center of the fairway. Should have a really straightforward look into the green. Pete didn't seem to like any of that as soon as it left his hand. Coming up a bit shy and out to the left.
Joe now looking to get up and down.
Job done there from Joe Rovere.
Back to Pete Ulibarri for par.
As you said, Grant, putting out there in distance 45, 60 feet. Not been easy this week for the fellas. Dave Feldberg gets that birdie to stick right on the center part of the pole. Beautiful putt.
A friend of mine at the PDGA and I had a little putting game going on for players and fans as they made their way out to the course. And I can tell you, I was shocked at the effect the altitude had on the putts. It was windy too, but from Oklahoma, I'm used to that. Altitude, though, putts just no glide whatsoever. The bottom falls right out.
It's a tricky Tricky endeavor on the putting green up here at elevation, that's for sure. Solid birdie once again for Cale Leiviska. Going to knot things up once again. 37 apiece. Joe Rovere, Cale Leiviska.
And with this, we'll be a third of the way through our semifinal round, the sixth, the 659-foot par 4.
Yeah, this one's definitely got some teeth. You see that entrance into the fairway pretty tight. Things do open up. Once again, an exposed green out there. Make putting a little interesting.
Keep going, baby.
Yeah, we've seen so much of that this week, haven't we, Grant? Things looking good out the hand and late fairway trees.
We have indeed. Cale, though, right down the center.
Joe Rovere put a good move on this one. Wow, that's a heck of a shot there from Joe. All the way out in the open. Pretty unobstructed approach into the green.
Go really far.
Pete just needs some open space here.
Go real far over there.
Not bad. Made good progression. Should be in range to fire a second into the green.
And here that is. Philo, you made a point the other day about how the mentality on par 5s is usually you can make a very small mistake and then you've got the time to make up for it and still get the birdies. Some of these par 4s here at Little America, I think, are similar.
Absolutely. The distance of these par 4s is very competitive for these guys. It's nothing out of their reach. It's not going to test their length to the max. So, yeah, if you get a little offline or don't get all the full distance off of your tee shot, you should feel like you've got enough pop in the tank to get up onto the green and give yourself a look for birdie. Solid play once again from Cale Leiviska, trying to add pressure to this man.
Joe Rovere responds in kind.
Yes, he did. No pressure felt. Matching that shot. Ulibarri. That was a really nice bid. Just doesn't drop. You were just talking about how things drop like a stone. Sometimes they just sail a little bit too much on you.
Dave Feldberg weighs and measures that perfectly.
Yeah, that's 3 really nice putts in a row from Feldberg. He's not going to go away quietly. You know how much this man loves to win and collect titles. May not be his day by the time it's all said and done, but he is not going to quit out there.
Pulls to within 4 for the moment.
Go. Very good putt there from Cale Leiviska. I believe Joe Rovere is at least a couple of steps closer. Oh, yeah, right there. Solid putt there from Cale Leiviska to keep in the battle. Joe Rovere, I believe this should be par for Pete Ulibarri, and they're going to head on over to hole number 7.
How is your putter release so powerful even as far out as 50 feet? A lot of the power on my putt is generated from like a little finger pop / wrist action at the very end. Hold a disc in your hand even when you're sitting down on a couch. You can kind of just pop it up, try to like pop the disc vertical, do this and just slowly practice getting it higher, and you're just really trying to use your wrist, not really your arm. That's how I do it, and that's a tip to how you can do it too.
To the 7th, a long par 3 at 364 feet.
Not the longest par 3 in the world. Certainly accessible here for these competitors. A couple of late trees there, as you see, to contend with, but a pretty wide open fairway to shape shots in there.
We'll see these players put about 400 feet of effort into these throws. We've seen how hard they have to go at the disc for even 200 or 250 footers.
Feldberg catches the last tree. Should have an angled putt. Cale Cale Leiviska touches nothing. That grinds inside circle one.
Beautiful effort there.
Applying
Now,
the pressure once again to Joe Rovere.
gotta respond.
He was right there, probably right on the edge of circle one. Basket was just off frame.
Pete Ulibarri airborne. And under the final guardian tree.
Feldberg first to act. Can he keep the putter hot? Another airmail, excuse me, for Feldberg. Doesn't touch a thing. There's a putt from Mr. Ulibarri. Fantastic straddle out.
Trying to maintain contact, certainly off to a much slower start this go around than he was 2 days ago at Little America.
I'm sure that's frustrating for Pete, knowing that the last time he showed up, he put down a scorcher and starting off a bit slower. Gonna have to find that confidence once again and get going.
Joe Rovere, first to putt. Now Cale to respond.
Ooh, that rode the elevator into the top third of those chains, didn't it?
Some scrapes from the bottom of the band on the top of that disc. Now Feldberg needs this to save par.
Job done there from Feldman.
Feldman.
Yeah, that's an old touring nickname we used to give him back in the day. Feldman.
Hole number 8 is 648-foot par 4. You see, folks, when you watch Masters level disc golf, you learn things you never knew before.
Yeah, sometimes. Hole number 8. This is a fun one. I love this shot for these guys. A little challenge here off the tee. Things get a little softer on the way into the green.
We're entering that middle third of the round, Philo, and we've talked about this before. Holes 8, 9, and then 11, 12, 13, all some of the easiest holes on the entire course. All of these players know there are must-gets in this area of their day.
Absolutely. This is gut check time right here for the guys. See if they can ramp up that focus, capitalize on these easy holes, and try to keep pushing away, extending from everybody else back there on the chase cards. Try to keep this a four-man battle right here going into that final 9.
Ulibarri up in the air. That's just fine. Now Feldberg. Work to do.
Yes, sir.
Gets over on this one.
That's a pretty solid recovery shot there from Dave.
Forehand now. Ulibarri.
Coming up a bit short bit.
Have a downhill look. Quickly to Cale Leiviska.
Really nice angle into the green. Same for Joe.
Perhaps just over 100 feet is all he has left.
Man, he can take a stab at this. Eyeing that thing all the way towards the target and just coming up a bit wide. Solid effort.
Pete. Okay, but that'll be another par. Now Feldberg. Disappointed. So close. So once again, Philo, Rovere, and Leiviska gap the field, sort of like the opposite of auto racing. In auto racing, the top two guys get to duking it out. Everybody else behind gets to catch up. In this case, I think they're motivating each other.
Yeah, this is turning into a match play event here for the last 18 holes or so. We've got one left on this front nine. 9 holes to go for this semifinal, then a final 9. These guys are trying to keep this a one-on-one battle.
Hole 9 is 261 feet straight up the hill. On day number 1, our featured card had some trouble here at the 9th. If I remember correctly, they played it collectively 1 over.
Correct, and then the second time we saw them play this hole, everybody started to figure it out, giving themselves pretty much little 15, 20-foot tap-in birdie putts. See if the nerves get to him today. Joe Rovere's second act. Caught
Perfect.
one of those final boulders. Hopefully that sat down. Ulibarri, disc in the air. That should be in the same neighborhood. Can't see it running away from there.
Cale Feldberg looking to go up and over here.
Yeah, he took a nice aggressive line there, keeping it up in the air. Going to challenge the chains. Nice touch to keep it right there inside circle 1. Ulibarri once again slinging one in from circle's edge, maybe even shallow circle 2. Look how many steps he's taken to get up to that target. At least a dozen. Solid putt.
Oh, boy.
No. That's twice today for Cale Leiviska, well inside circle 1. Bouncing it off the front cage. Advantage, Joe Rovere.
To break the tie. Oh,
Wasn't the prettiest, but it went in.
that was nervy.
Slightly. Well, some days they say there's no pictures on the scorecard, but we've got videos on the
We do.
tickets.
There's no evidence.
Everybody saw that.
So Cale taps in the par halfway through this semifinal round. Cale is 1 back.
Yeah, this is kind of a nervy putt here for Feldberg. Nothing but air past this basket. He's air-mailed a couple today. Does well there to focus up, take his time, and send that one home.
Just 9 more holes to go before we determine the players in our final 9 en route to a PDGA Major Championship. Steve Rico, Pete Ulibarri, Martin Hendel all vying for that 4th and final spot in the final 9. For Philo Brathwaite, I'm Grant Zellner. We will return with back 9 coverage of the semifinals from Pro Masters Worlds.